Seeing none, call the vote. Councillor Humphries? You got to vote. Thank you. That carries. Any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. Community presentations. We have one. We have Jackie Ben John is not here this evening, but we have Ashley Dunn. I guess you're not the executive director, are you? No. Okay. But you are here in regards to Women's Support Network of York Region. You can come up. Do we have 10 minutes on this? 5? So it's, yeah, 5 minutes, and you'll hear a chime at 1 minute to go. Okay.
So good evening, Honorable Tom Maracas, council members and community members. My name is Ashley Dunn. I'm the program manager at the Women's Support Network. I'm going to take the next 5 minutes to talk briefly about the services that we provide at the Women's Support Network and the impact of sexual violence on our community. So the Women's Support Network was established in 1992 as a nonprofit registered charity. WSN is York Region's only sexual violence and rape crisis center. Overall, our work is divided into 3 portfolios: sexual violence, commercial sexual exploitation, and prevention and awareness through our public education. So what is sexual violence? Basically, we describe sexual violence as a broad term that includes any physical, psychological, act that violates one's sexual integrity of a person or targets their sexuality. So you can see there's a bunch of different aspects listed that could include sexual assault, rape, online sexual harassment, etc. So what is sex trafficking? It is a type of sexual violence which falls under the umbrella of human trafficking. It is forced sexual exploitation of a person, and unfortunately in York Region, youth are the main population that is targeted. So it could include forced work at massage parlors, escort services, and forced prostitution. So sexual violence is prevalent in Canada and costs roughly $4.8 billion a year, compared to gun violence at $3.1 billion a year. 1 in 3 women will experience some form of sexual violence in their lifetime, and 1 in 6 men. Sexual violent offenses are among the most underreported crimes in Canada. Approximately 33 of every 1,000 sexual assaults are reported to the police. Although the myth is that it is mostly strangers who are the perpetrators of sexual violence, 82% of victims know their perpetrator. So what is WSN doing to support survivors and eradicate sexual violence? WSN provides free, non-judgmental, confidential services to people who've experienced sexual violence in any form and at any point in their life. We provide services in English and French and can use with the use of MCIS interpreters, any language if people request that. In terms of supporting survivors, we offer 2 24-hour crisis lines, one specific to sexual violence and a line dedicated towards human trafficking. Our counseling program is diverse and includes rapid response counseling, which includes 3 sessions for immediate support to survivors, individual counseling up to 6 months, and group counseling when funding allows. We've also initiated a walk-in program, so every Thursday evening from 4 to 8 p.m., we offer walk-in counseling. That's for people who don't have access to a regular counselor or aren't really sure if counseling is for them. They can just pop in for a 45-minute session to get the support that's needed. The last part of the 3 part of our program is around public education. So we provide workshops, trainings, we speak at meetings, conferences, to raise awareness of sexual violence and the impact in our community. So in terms of impact, in 2018, 669 sexual assaults were reported to York Regional Police. Now keep in mind it is the most underreported crime, so we know those numbers are much higher. It is up 6.4% from 2017 and a whopping 64% from 2014. Does this mean sexual assaults are increasing? No, but reporting is. And this is a large fallback from the Me Too movement, which has brought about a lot more people reporting. So last year, WSN answered 2,466 calls on our crisis line, provided counseling to 142 women, delivered 95 group sessions, and supported 51 individuals affected by commercial sexual exploitation, specifically in York Region. A big event for us is Take Back the Night. We work with a lot of different partner organizations to raise awareness of sexual violence and gender-based violence in the region. This year, it is the 21st annual event, and it's going to be taking place at York Region, in Richmond Hill in York Region. We try to move it around the community every single year to involve more people. So we'd encourage anyone who's wanting to get involved in the issue to please join us at Take Back the Night. 5 seconds, so thank you very much. If you have any questions, there's Jackie's email right there.
Thank you, Ashley. Actually, there's a couple of questions, so if you want to stay up at the podium. Thank you. Council, first, can I just get a motion to receive? Moved by Councillor Humphreys, seconded by Councillor Gartner. Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you so much for sharing this tonight. And it sort of terrifies me to see those numbers, by the way. And I like, part of what I like what you said is not that it looks like it's increasing, but people are reporting more, which
Correct.
I think is really good. So just a couple of questions. Do you know, for Aurora specifically, I mean, the human trafficking piece is really scary for our youth. Is there an area, how do I put this, in York Region that has a higher number of this occurrences versus in Aurora? Just wondering.
Ashley?
Yeah, I can't say a specific area. Of course, Vaughan is very targeted because they're along the 400. Any location that's near a highway, so Markham, Richmond Hill is very close as well. But people also exploit vulnerabilities. So youth themselves are very vulnerable. People from marginalized backgrounds are also going to be vulnerable. There's so many different vulnerabilities.
Right.
I don't have specific stats for Aurora specifically.
No, thank you. I mean, I really love what your organization does.
Thank you.
And the safety of it, and the offerings for of anyone, male, female, it doesn't matter. I think it says Women's Support Network, but I think you would support anyone who would
We
call,
do provide
right?
service to men.
No, it's perfect. That's really great news. And in terms of getting involved, is all the information here? And do you have to put a team in, or can you go on your own? Or
No, individuals are welcome to come to Take Back the Night. Yeah,
Good.
Absolutely.
Great, thank you.
In terms of volunteering at the agency, there's board members, there's crisis line volunteers, so there's lots of different opportunities.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gartner.
Thank you very much for coming and for your work. And I agree with Councillor Humphreys. It is pretty scary. So with respect to the march, what time? It's on the 20th of September in Richmond Hill. Whereabouts? What time, please?
Yeah, so I do have a poster I can leave here. We start at 6:30, and we'll be starting at the Value Village Plaza in Richmond Hill. And then we walk towards Richmond Hill United Church, where there'll be empowering speakers, presentations, and a candlelight vigil.
Thank you. So you'll be walking south along Yonge Street,
Yes, we'll be
and
walking south along Yonge Street.
people should meet at the. I think that's Elgin Mills.
Yeah, it's Yonge and Elgin Mills.
Thank you very much.
Or if people aren't able to make it to the march and they want to come for the after celebration, it's at Richmond Hill United Church from 7 to 9.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Kim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for coming out tonight. Over the last 18 months, it's we've heard our fair share of presentations from great groups like yourselves, but it underlines the disturbing trends of human trafficking and exploitation. Can you talk about whether your organization collaborates with other like-minded organizations in York Region, and how can we as a municipality assist your organization?
Yeah, absolutely. We do collaborate with a number of organizations. We're co-chair of the York Region Violence Against Women Coordinating Committee. We work with the Community Partner Alliance to stop trafficking. We do work with York Regional Police as well in terms of human trafficking. I think what anyone can do is become educated. There's a free training on MCIS website. If you go to endhumantrafficking.ca, it's a training and it provides really basic information, what to look for, what are vulnerabilities, and how to access support for individuals.
Thank you.
I can also say that I know the York Region District School Board has also taken it very seriously. Everyone from kindergarten up to grade 12, anyone involved in the schools will be receiving training. So we collaborated on that project.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Ashley. Thank you for
Thank you
coming
very
out.
much.
Council, call the vote. That carries. We have no delegations, Council. I'll move to the consent agenda. We have 3 items there. Does anyone have any questions? Anyone want to pull anything on those one of those 3 items? Councillor Gallo?
I don't want to pull anything, but just a note that I'll be voting against it. I wasn't here at that meeting.
Do you want to do that one separately? Oh, they're all the same night? Oh, actually, yeah, you're right. Correct, sorry. They're all the same night. All right. So can I get someone to move C1 to C3? Councillor Humphreys, Councillor Kim. I will call the vote. Councillor Gardner. Thank you. That carries. Standing committee report. Would anyone like to pull anything? Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Could I have 1, 4, and 7?
R1.
R1, R4, and R7. And I'd like to know if anybody's here for any of the motions and would like them pulled forward. I guess not. Okay.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Thompson.
I'd like to see one pulled just for a vote.
Thank you. Anyone else?
You pulled R7, right?
Yeah, so I have C1, R1, R4, R7. So if there's nothing else, I'll ask for a motion to approve the remaining items. Hoover? Councillor Gilliland, seconded by Councillor Thompson. Call the vote. That carries. All right, we'll move to C1. Okay. Moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Humphreys. Any comments or questions? Actually, yeah, my mic's on. I don't even know why. Yeah, just, you know what, I think this is something important for us to endorse. The findings or the work that was done by the special advisors, it's the understanding now that that will not be made public, and so everyone wants that to be made public. And so this is just basically saying that we as a municipality feel that that should be made public so everyone can see what the special advisors did come up with and what their report entails as far as recommendations for moving forward within the regional governance review. Councillor Thompson.
And if I may add, for those of us that were able to attend AMO, there was a lot of talk about this amongst other colleagues and councillors and mayors. So good on Brock for bringing it forward, but there are a lot of municipalities similar to us that are looking for this report to be published.
Well said. I'll call the vote. That carries. R1, stop control removal at Corbett Crescent and Cossier Drive. Councillor Gardner, you pulled this one.
Hoping that I could put the diagram on page 11, R1, page 11, on the overhead, but the overhead is not working. So I do have an amendment to add, and I believe the clerk's department has prepared one. My concern is, and the gentleman, Mr. McPherson, mentioned it last week, it's a 45-degree angle going from Cossar, west on Cossar, and then making the turn. And there's a mailbox on one side of the street. So the safety issue is to keep the people doing this turn to try and not cross over the center line. The suggestion was to paint a yellow line for some distance south and south of the mailbox. Am I going in the wrong direction, Mr. Clerk? It's a crazy area. It's not south. What direction is it? East. So I mean, it's a very, I've driven it. It's a very tricky angle, and you have to pay a lot of attention to make sure you stay on your side of the road. So anything that we could do to help with safety issues, I would appreciate support.
So Councillor, what's the amendment?
Mr. Clerk has it. Oh, we can't put it up?
Yeah. So,
Thank you.
did you want to read that, Councillor?
That a yellow center line be painted on Cossar Drive extending 40 meters east of the intersection of Cossar Drive and Corbett. That a yellow, Crescent, sorry. Cossar Drive and Corbett Crescent.
Can I get a seconder? Councillor Humphreys? So speaking to the amendment? Councillor Garner, did you?
It's very unfortunate that, I don't know if anybody can look up R1, page 11 from last week. And if you can see that it's just a 45-degree angle, that turn, because they were hoping to make it a T intersection, those are usually 45-degree angle roads. So it's a suggestion from Mr. McPherson, who lives there and who's lived there for many years and has seen, I'm guessing, as cars make that turn, they cross over the center line, and especially at this spot, there is a community mailbox. So we definitely want to keep the cars on the right side of the road. I think it's a small ask, and I think it would make some impact, hopefully some impact on safety, and I don't think it's a very costly process.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Humphreys?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And while I think it's a good idea, I guess it's to warn traffic that, don't cross over. I just wondered if staff have any comments on this. Is there, do they feel this is the right solution for safety, or any additional comments that they would think? I mean, we've asked them to keep the stop sign, but if there's anything else that staff want to consider, or if I can ask anyone if that's possible.
Mr. Waters?
Anyone ready to?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's not the practice to put yellow signs or paint yellow signs on local roads, but we will take council's direction.
Okay.
Councillor Humphreys?
No, that's fair. I'd just like to hear any other comments, but I'm not opposed. I think it's okay. It's a very unusual street. We don't have anything like this anywhere else, so I think it's just going to help. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Humphreys. Councillor Thompson?
Thank you. Along the same lines, through you to Mr. Waters, and I understand that it's not typical practice, but I guess it's being done in the hopes of improving safety. And so, based on your experience, do you think this will provide some additional safety measures?
Mr. Waters?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think one of the issues we have to understand is that there's a stop sign only one way, so there is a false sense of safety when people cross the road. I can't give you an opinion whether it's going to help or not, but it's an added measure that could assist with traffic calming in that location.
Thank you.
Councillor Thompson? Yep. Anyone else for the first time? Councillor Gartner to the amendment?
Thank you. There's a slight mistake in the agenda on this item. Should I say what it is?
Does it have to deal with the amendment? Can we wait till we get back to the original motion?
You're right. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions on the amendment? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. That carries. Councillor Gardner, floor still yours.
Thank you. The motion from the General Committee, the second part, it reads that the stop sign and stop line remain on Corbett Crescent at Cossar. Is that the correct terminology, the stop sign and stop line? I heard somebody refer to it as a crosswalk. I don't know, I'm just asking.
Mr. Waters?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe it is stop sign, yes. A stop line, excuse me. Stop.
Thank you very much.
Councillor? So you're okay? Any other comments or questions on this item? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. Oh, we don't? Oh, Councillor Gardner, I'll get you to move this because we jumped right into your amendment. Someone want to second this? Councillor Humphreys. All right, I'll call the vote. That carries. R4. Councillor Gardner, would you like to move this?
I will.
Thank you. Second. Councillor Thompson, go
Thank
ahead.
you. And I thank you last week for putting this forward. I have two concerns. The first one is about the recruitment policy. We're not going to use the recruitment policy that we usually use for local boards because we're targeting community groups. But I'm thinking there should be some sort of a policy with respect to this particular committee. Maybe it just be that recruitment for membership be from Aurora community organizations. I mean, there has to be some sort of a policy, in my opinion, for if we're going to recruit.
There, Mr. CAO, did you want to? There is within the membership of the terms of reference, but I'll let
Right.
the CAO answer.
Mr. Mayor, I'm not sure if this satisfies Councillor Gartner, but on page 6 of 8, under item R4, under the terms of reference for the committee, we do define or suggest a definition of the membership of the committee, so that it clarifies that it would be from service clubs, community organizations, who provide a variety of services to those in need within the boundaries of the town of Aurora. And then it gives some examples of communities. It also spells out that they must be 18 years of age, Canadian citizen, not employed by the town, and that we're looking for at least one member with a background in finance. So I'm not sure if that fully addresses it, but it does cover part of it.
And
Councillor Garner?
certainly it addresses the intent, and I read it more carefully last time, thanks to you. I missed a page. It's just that we are saying here that the recruitment provisions in the advisory committee and local board policy be waived. So I think we should say, well, we are going to be advertising. Am I correct on that? We're going to be advertising for members of this committee? So there has to be some sort of policy under which we're advertising.
Mr.
We have
CAO?
policies for all the other committees.
To you, Mr. Mayor, the intent for this committee was to reach out to individuals that met that criteria and ask them if they would be interested, as opposed to placing an ad and getting all kinds of applications. So that was the intent. That's why it was suggested that the normal recruitment provisions would be waived.
Councilor Gardner?
Okay, I'm just going to let it be. It's an unusual situation where we would go out and almost handpick who we wanted on a committee, and it seems like there's something missing, but nobody seems concerned about it, so I'll just let it go. And also, on the, we were talking about policy before, and somewhere in here, Mr. Mayor, you said you wanted to open it to Aurora community groups. I'm sorry, I can't remember, and I'm quoting you incorrectly, but I would like to see that we are recruiting Aurora community groups, that this is an Aurora-based endeavor. The golf, it's your mayor's golf charity. So I don't, and if we are going to be opening this up to York regional groups, then I think there should be a stipulation that the money is spent to help people in Aurora.
Councillor, I think it does speak to that within the terms of reference. Even the membership, the examples that it cites are Aurora groups, Welcoming Arms, the Rotary Club, Optimus, some of our Trinity Church, Salvation Army, YRP. YRP would be the only one that'd be York Regional, but I think that we would look at recruiting someone that would be an Aurora resident that would be part of YRP.
Thank you. I would say Salvation Army and United Way and Chats also are more regional groups. So I would like to tighten it up because, it's an Aurora fundraiser and Aurora residents should be the recipients.
100%, and that's the
Mr.
idea. That's the idea behind it, Councillor, is that the recipients would be Aurora residents.
I
And the-
know,
and
but
the
we
community.
need to be, let's just make sure of that.
Mr. Steele?
To you, Mr. Mayor, I might offer under financial support, page 7 of 8, the second bullet, it does say to determine the amount of financial support to both individuals and community groups to help them participate in or organize various activities offered throughout the town of Aurora. So there is a connection there to activities and support only given in the town of Aurora.
And I'll just add to that, as far as the funding criteria guidelines, the last bullet is application should demonstrate a benefit to the residents of the town of Aurora that receiving funding provide.
Thank you. I think that covers it. And we're going to have a report at the end of the first year, and we can see. Thank you. The other concern I have is that on page 2, the recommended funding criteria is broad and based on the prior organizing committee distributed the funds raised by the Golf Classic. There is one of the groups that's mentioned in this list that at one point had a very large reserve fund, close to $100,000. So will we be trying to find out whether, if an organization, a helping organization has a reserve fund, either they need to give us a good reason why they're not using it, or they need to be using it.
So, Councillor, you're at your 5, but I will answer that because, and then if you want to speak again, we'll get you on your second time. We'll let Councillor Kim go. But I'll give everyone just a brief rundown as far as what the idea is behind making the changes that we're doing. Is that so? In previous years, what's happened is that a check's been made out. Someone would look to try to get funding, and a check would be made out for, I think, a max of $5,000 at the time. Mr. CEO, am I correct on that? So they would get, a check for $5,000. We want to move away from that. Instead of giving it to organizations, we actually want to deal directly with the community and with people. So there, to give you some examples, like maybe a resident's house burns down, and they can't get any help, and maybe some funds would come out of here to help that family directly. Or we've all heard the stories where a child gets hurt and all of a sudden they're in a wheelchair, and they're coming home and the family can't afford to build a ramp going into the house. And so these are the types of things that we're looking to do, is to directly impact and help our community and our residents. And so that's where the change is the funding will not be going to an organization overall in a big check.
Thank you. I think it's a wonderful idea, and we had this problem in the winter when there was a fundraiser at the ACC for the young man who was, I think, a quadriplegic now, and we didn't have any kind of a vehicle to help him.
And this would be
So
able
this
to.
it's a wonderful idea. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Kim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this recommendation of a review and disbursement committee is an excellent idea, and I think the spirit of this committee is to remove any controversy. And I think one thing that came to mind when I was reading this and reading this again this week is to add another point in the terms of reference for those in the committee whose organizations they represent may be the recipient, that they would excuse themselves from the decision-making process. I know that in our current committee, terms of reference, it's up to the individual to recuse themselves. But if the whole point is to eliminate controversy, then why let that even be a possibility? So just to kind of tighten things up, because that's the whole point of having this committee, is just to add that bullet that those who are recipients, representative recipient organizations, that they would excuse themselves from the process.
It's a good suggestion, Councillor. Mr. Seo, can that be done? Can we add that into the terms of reference? That if it deals with their organization, that they must excuse themselves? Okay. So do we need to make an amendment for that, Mr. Clerk?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's certainly, as Councillor Kim outlined, that would definitely be our expectation. As the recommendation recommends, it will be an advisory committee of council, meaning they'll be under the local board's code of conduct passed by council earlier this year, and we'll certainly share with them or with the committee members that policy and make sure they understand the understanding that should one of their organizations be have an application for the committee, that they excuse themselves from the debate.
Is that good, Councillor Kim?
That's good.
Okay. Any other? Councillor Gardner, second time.
I would just like to say it's always better to put it in writing, and the way the report reads is we expect that they would excuse themselves, but I think by putting it in writing, they, as you said, they must. Thank you.
Thank you. So can we just take that into advisement and change it to shall instead of will? Or however it's where it's looking, see, shall? So we're good with that? They shall excuse themselves.
They must?
Well, shall is same as must.
The shall and the will have gotten us into trouble over the
Okay.
years. Okay.
All right, any other comments or questions on this one? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. That carries unanimously. R7, Community Engagement Policy Report. Councillor Gartner, you pulled this one as well.
Thank you.
Would you like
And
to move it?
I'll move it.
Thank you. Second, Councillor Kim. Councillor Gartner, floor is yours.
Thank you. I think we've been doing a lot of work on this. I remember once I wasn't able to attend when we were discussing this, and I think that's a couple years ago. So I thank staff for doing this, and I think the idea is really, it's wonderful and it's right, and it says the town of Aurora is committed to providing an inclusive process to better inform and engage residents in decisions and projects that reflect their interests and concerns. And I think as a council, that's exactly what we should be doing. So thank you to Ms. Mackenzie Smith.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments or questions on this one? Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. And while I do echo some of Councillor Gardner's comments, that I do like the report, I like a lot of the pieces within it, and I think that it helps set that framework for us going forward with regards to engaging the community. I do have one concern that I wanted to share, and really, when you look at the community engagement framework, and the last column, which is the Empower one, for myself, when I read the report, I'd like to get some more, I guess, details, or at least a little bit more policy around how we would do the piece about placing the final decision in the hands of the public. I get it for questions of the ballot. It's that simple. There's already all kinds of procedures or a framework set out on how that would work. But if council were to do it, you'd want to make sure that, I don't know, it's statistically valid. What number of residents would you want to be able to weigh in on this particular issue? Because as it states here, the promise is we'll implement what the public decides. And so I'd like to see a little bit more details from staff around that piece. Maybe it is just limited to questions on the ballot or referendums, those that would engage all residents, as opposed to just council arbitrarily recommending this strategy for another issue. And so I'll listen to the comments of my colleagues, but I think, you know, my preference would be to refer back to staff.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Kim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, in a very humble way, you know, when the communications team started out and growing so quickly a couple of years ago, I have to embarrassingly admit that I wasn't sure whether a communications team was even necessary. And how quickly in the last couple of years, you know, I've learned that a communication team is imperative, and the professionals who work in the team is, in fact, very professional and very thoughtful. And, you know, community engagement, it's not just like an announcement. You know, I thought, gee, I know during previous budget process, we're hiring another half-time or full-time communication specialist, and I was kind of rolling my eyes, and I apologize. But, you know, I've learned so much about the communications team and the engagement process. And you know, the community engagement protocol, you know, it's an instrument to build trust, and that's really important, especially when you're in the business of council and working with the public. So when I saw this table, you know, initially I thought, wow, this is a great process. This is a great table. You know, we just follow the map. You know, we look at this item, and or staff will look at the item, and you just kind of hit the tail on the column that best fits it. But you know, as Councillor Thompson pointed out, you know, this is it's a framework. It's not a process guide. You know, you're not moving from, you know, left to right, but it is a framework. And you know, once the level is selected, it's not just you know, working through the spectrum top down. I'm finding, but all the levels to the left also apply. You know, similar to you have varying degrees of sponsorship, and you have a platinum sponsor. You get all the benefits of a gold and silver and bronze as well. And so I'm thinking that this would also apply in this table, that you move, just because you hit the one column, it's just not there. You're all the other columns to the left also applies. You know, and also further, you know, there's also a misconception that it seems like if the further to the right, because when I looked at it, it's thought, gee, you know, if you're further to the right, the better it is. But that could be far from the truth. And you know, the more I read about this, you know, the creators of the spectrum was you know, that was not the intent. You know, it's about finding the appropriate level and trying to collaborate on something fairly straightforward, where there's little, you know, passion or complexity would be a waste of time, right? And you know, conversely, doing a simple consult level process for something highly complex will likely, you know, result in having to start all over again after having done some damage. So, you know, those are the things, you know, that I considered. And further, you know, if you look at the empower, you know, column, it essentially means that the organization or the town is delegating decisions to the public. And this could result in, you know, simply less complex issues being delegated to the public, and the town becomes more removed from the process. So that's not a positive thing. You know, another, you know, misconception that, you know, or misunderstanding that, you know, that I discovered was that, it's not the organization. I thought, how is staff going to decide on this? But, maybe it's not staff that's deciding, because the level often needs to be negotiated in communities, and in particular our community has shown that they can challenge the level of engagement, especially when particular stakeholders have been overlooked in the process. So even though we may think staff will be deciding, this may turn out to be a long back and forth process, and just arrive at that eventual level. But this spectrum, it seems it's more flexible than it looks. It may be common to use the spectrum in a much more flexible framework. For instance, I can see an item where the town feels it is more simple item, but the public may beg to differ. If a consult level process is not going well, for example, a community group is not happy with options presented, and the community wants to be more engaged and involved in the final outcome, it should be possible to go as high as collaborate for a time until that trust is built. If sufficient trust is built, then the town may be able to move forward and move back to the informed column. So it seems like in some processes it could be flexible and move about. Therefore, if you are choosing empower level, it should include all the levels to the left, but the empower level cannot coexist with the levels on the right, because they all involve some level of collaboration other than inform. So my thinking is, in my 20 seconds I have left, is that perhaps we should consider removing that empower level. For one reason, because we may just delegate just the simple issues. And on the other side, and this is critical, collaboration can be more empowering than empower level because of the investment in building longer-term working relationship between the town and the public. And that would be the strong case to eliminate the empower, because collaboration is essentially what we are desiring. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kim. I was just about to stop you, but Councillor Humphries.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor, and I actually really appreciate Councillor Kim's comments. I think we're all looking at, absolutely understand the engagement policy, and it has a strong framework for sure. But I feel, very briefly, that the empowered side of things, I think there needs to be a lot more process around that, because there are going to be times where, we can let the public decide, but how do we know, as Councillor Thompson mentioned, how many members of the public are required to make that decision final, and all the members are on the same page or not. So I think there has to almost be a circle back to council. Public, staff, and council again, maybe in that last section. So I'd love to see this a little bit more refined on the empowerment side, just because I could see a few things going different ways with this. So yeah, if that's a possibility, or if staff comment, that would be wonderful.
Ms. Mackenzie Smith.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So just to clarify, the framework is not meant to be prescriptive. It's not meant to be, this is exactly what we're doing and these are the only things that we're doing. What it is meant to do is really set out a guideline at the beginning of a process, so that there's conversations that are happening between staff before a report gets to council, so that there's some consideration before we get to this point to develop a plan of what level of engagement we would recommend, and then that recommendation still comes before council, included in the council report as it does right now. That section that currently exists in all council reports under communications considerations would just be amended slightly to include some of the recommendations from this. Again, it's not meant to be prescriptive. It's not meant to say we're going to do all of the things listed in here. It's meant to say this is the level that we're looking at, so that it's clear from council's perspective as well as from the public perspective, and to avoid situations where we may not, to enable us to have those conversations beforehand, to recognize things that may require a higher level of engagement. So I think, what Councillor Kim was talking about as well, about including all of the other, the items to the left, that's kind of implied in the process, and I apologize if it wasn't clear, that all of those things we're still going to be informing, we're still going to be, it's not meant to be prescriptive or exclusive of other processes in any way. It's simply meant to provide a guideline. I think, empower, the one we can certainly look at from a staff perspective in terms of tightening that up to be clear that it would be something that would be added to the ballot, if that's something that council feels more clearly about. I would be reluctant. This is an internationally accepted and kind of world-renowned standard for the framework. So we do refer to it as the IEP2 spectrum. To remove an element of that would be somewhat difficult because it's not actually, this is not a framework that we've created. It is an internationally recognized process that we're simply recommending be part of the process that we use for evaluating consultation and community engagement. So I think I would want to exercise some caution in terms of removing anything specifically. We can certainly tighten up wording around when empower would be an appropriate mechanism or technique in exercising the framework.
Thank you. Councillor Humphreys?
Through Mr. Mayor, and that makes sense. I mean, I kind of realize it's a methodology process. It's just, it can be taken literally, just because a lot of people out there don't, oh, good, I can make this decision for council, right? So I think we just need to be probably a little careful when we're communicating it out and understanding that the beginning of a process ends with a certain way, and absolutely the public will have input. So I hear you, and I appreciate that explanation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Humphreys. Councillor Gallo, I'll go to you for the first time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just my thoughts on this. I like the concept. I like the fact that there's some structure around how we communicate to the public on particular issues. In terms of the last column, empower, I think, at least in my years on council, we rarely just allow that to happen without some significant discussion and thought. In fact, I think the previous item speaks to that. It probably fits squarely in that column in terms of how we distribute the funds that is collected through a mayor's golf tournament. We're delegating authority to a committee for them to make decisions. So I think in a roundabout way we do it, but with some thought. So I like the way this is set up. Perhaps some tweaking is fine. Maybe it's some expansion of some of the things, but I think we're moving in the right direction. I think, at least for me, it's going to be an item on every report that I'm going to pay some serious attention on, because it will guide how we communicate to the public, particularly if we go as far as empowering someone to do something without it coming back or without really council's ultimate decision. So it's an item that at least I'm going to pay particular attention to at least through my lens, to make sure we're doing the right thing.
Councillor Gardner.
I had a similar question before the meeting last meeting to staff, and I was suggested that I look at the conditions for engagement, and maybe that should be in a different place in the chart. But there's various levels at which the public will be engaged. The first one is if a decision has been made, the town will, inform and educate. The second one is the town has control to make the decision and implement it, but wants some feedback before making a final decision. And then it progresses to the end where public makes the decision, town staff may facilitate or support it. So it's a continuum, and I don't know if it's the way I'm reading the chart or if it's a problem with the chart, but it's clearly under the conditions for engagement, clearly spells out the parameters of the engagement. So through you, Mr. Mayor, to Ms. Mackenzie Smith, is this how it came out of the international criteria? Is this the chart that came out of there?
Ms. Mackenzie Smith.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, it's fairly consistent pretty much with the IEP2 spectrum in terms of the goals, the promises, and the conditions for engagement. Example techniques do vary from municipality to municipality. Again, it's not intended to be prescriptive. It's simply intended to provide some ideas and options that are available within each of those areas of the spectrum.
Councillor.
Thank you. So when I look at the chart, in the middle, or almost middle, conditions for engagement, and then it says when the decision has been made, it just promises we keep informing. The goal is to provide information and generate awareness, and The example techniques are fact sheets, webpage, open house, etc. So if you read the chart in that context and go up and down, even though it's not prescriptive, it's clear what the intention is. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Kim, second time.
Thank you. So just so we can have a visual of what this process would look like, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Ms. Mackenzie Smith. So if an issue like Library Square or Wildlife Park, stable neighborhoods was an item that would come aboard, and staff recommended one of the levels, and council didn't like the level that was chosen, could we go on here all night debating on what level it should be?
Ms. Mackenzie Smith?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it would certainly be no different than what is there right now. This is simply for providing more structure. Always under the communications considerations, staff provide our input on how the decision will be communicated, or how the process will be communicated, or the program, whatever it is in each report. This is simply meant to provide more structure around that so that it's clear for both the public and for council of what those tools and techniques that we will be using will be.
Councillor Kim?
Okay, I guess my concern would be with the empower level is that if we could, discuss and debate what level of communication and collaboration that any item can have, then any one of us, if we don't like where an item or report is going, in the direction that it's going, then we could all state that we want the engage level, because who can go wrong with saying we want engagement from the community, from the public, and that we want them to make the decision. And I know that that might sound political, but that's the environment that we work in. So is there anything stopping us from playing the engagement card anytime we don't like something?
Councillor, do you mean the empower?
Or sorry, empower.
Thank you. Ms. Mackenzie Smith?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. It would certainly very rarely be a recommendation from staff to go that level. Again, if that was the case, it would be something that would require a ballot. It would be really quite an extensive process that would be more than just a simple debate about a report. It would require a very comprehensive process behind that. So it would not generally be used for something that, for those purposes. It generally wouldn't be used for those purposes. It would be something that would be quite extensive, that would require a significant amount of structure behind it.
Councillor?
And I agree that I think the spirit of this recommendation is to make this fluid process, and that it betters the community. But my concern is that this will just tack on another layer of debate and discussion that we don't need. And so if there's a way, maybe if you and the team can take it back, and, is there a process in which that, we can somehow prevent that type of discussion from happening, so that would be my concern.
Thank you, Councillor Kim. Councillor Thompson, second time.
Thank you. So from what I've heard around the table is that everyone's appreciative of the document. They think it's a good document, but further refinement is needed. And so unless some of my colleagues want to speak for the first time, I'd like to put a motion on the floor to refer it back to staff, and the comments heard around the table be taken into consideration.
Councillor, and just because I haven't spoken, I will speak, and I'll just say that I do like the document, but I share some of those concerns. I'd like to see some more definitions laid out as far as how each of these levels would be used and in what way. I mean, obviously the empowerment, it seems to me, speaks to the fact that it would end up being on a ballot. It would be like a ballot type of a question, and that's where it would fall. I don't think anyone would turn around and say that, well, we want to empower the public and have them make the decision on our behalf when we were elected to make the decisions for them. We wouldn't have a straw poll from the public and make a decision. So I don't think that anyone sitting at this table is suggesting that, but I think we need those definitions to come from our staff. So I'm fine with it going back to staff and have them put those definitions in front of us and how it would be laid out, and then we can make a decision at that time. So you want to
Motion
refer this? Someone want to second that? Councillor Gilliland? Someone want to speak to the referral? Councillor Gallo?
Just through you to staff, just to make sure they understand the direction and that they know what we're asking for. I just want to be sure that they're clear on what more we want.
Ms. Mackenzie Smith?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe I understand that I think what we'll do is go back and we'll provide some definitions within the document, but then what we'll also do is provide perhaps some examples within the report that can help provide some ideas for staff on when those different tools might be used.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gallo. Councillor Humphreys?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor, and similar to what Ms. Mackenzie Smith mentioned, maybe what you can come back with is an example of a previous public situation like stable neighborhoods, and take us through that process and see if, you know, how, I'd love to see, like, visualize that, how that would work with this framework. So maybe there would have been other things we would do. It's a real life example, so it would be great to have that in. Here's what we would see. I take to understand, because I do understand it's, you know, it's an existing document, and it's internationally recognized best practices and utilizes the International Association of Public Participation, and it looks like it's being used with, you know, Town of Newmarket and York Region. So maybe we can, you know, with additional definitions, and maybe take us through a past example. And then we can understand that better.
Ms. Mackenzie Smith, can you take maybe a past example and, thank you.
No, high level, not a big talk, just high level. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Gilliland?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Similar to what Councillor Humphreys was saying, I would like to see different ways that you would present it to council. So it wouldn't necessarily be just a bullet point, but maybe have different ways that we could see how that communication is presented to council, so it doesn't create that debate. That makes sense?
Thank you, Councillor Gilliland. As I said the first time, I think this is, we're on the right path. I think this is great. And a more informed public, more engaged public, it means that we're better off as a community and as a town as a whole. So I think that we're just looking for some more extensive definitions towards how this would be utilized. And I think Ms. Mackenzie Smith is fully understanding what council is asking of her to do and come back with. So I will call the vote. That carries unanimously. So we are done with items requiring separate discussion from the regular agenda. We move to motions. First motion, Councillor Gardner, noise bylaw review.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Would you like to move this?
I'll move it, thank you.
Second? Councillor Gallo for discussion. Councillor Gardner, floor is yours.
Thank you. Over the years, I think, apart from parking concerns, noise has been one of the most constant complaints of residents. And I formed the motion on that basis. I did speak with Ms. Van Leeuwen last week. And I spoke with the City of Toronto today. There's two parts to this. One is pouring of concrete, and one is all the rest. With respect to all the rest, the intent of the bylaw is that no person shall make, cause, or permit noise or vibration at any time which is likely to disturb the quiet, peace, rest, enjoyment, or convenience of the inhabitants of the city. Now, Toronto's worked at this, I think it's for 18 months, and we're not Toronto. We don't have the continuous construction that Toronto has. But I do think we want to do anything we can to, all the things I just said, not disturb the quiet of our residents or businesses. So in that light, there are many things in this bylaw, including asking the province, which governs the noise that air conditioning units can emit, including asking the province to have a look at that, because that is a problem and has been over the years for some people, especially people who don't like air conditioning and like to keep their windows open. With respect to the construction noise, what staff brought to the council table was more prescriptive than what council decided. It was originally that there was to be the concrete pouring could only last for 3 months, and that it shouldn't be done at night. And as Ms. Van Leeuwen reminded me last week, it's not possible. Once you start pouring concrete, you have to keep going. So that was taken out as an amendment. That was taken out of the bylaw. And the other change that was made was the time of the activity, and what they've got instead is noise, is overnight activity should be discouraged. Well, we all know that means nothing. But what it does have in it is the director has the ability to put a noise mitigation plan in place if they find that the overnight noise is onerous. Anyway, I think it's worth a good look, not only by staff, by council. It's not such a long bylaw. And through you to Mr. Mayor, to Ms. Van Leeuwen, when is the last time we looked at our noise bylaw?
Ms. Van Leeuwen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe it's a 2005-2006 bylaw. There was a report that came forward sometime around 2009 when we did a review to determine whether or not we should come forward with some quantitative noise levels, which would include some equipment and training for staff, and we never did go forward with those amendments. So the last time it was amended was, a comprehensive review was done, was in 2005-06.
Thank you.
Timeline.
Councillor?
I think most of us have been to Toronto. I think Toronto is in kind of a crisis mode with respect to noise, because there's so much construction, and there's certainly a lot of more dense residential areas than here. But I think we can learn from the research that they've done and what they're trying to do. And they've actually, I need to repeat what the gentleman told me. This is the supervisor of the whole shebang, that there is a noise team that they, think about it, a noise team dedicated to noise reduction by making people more accountable and with more enforcement, and officers on duty from 6 a.m. in the morning to 2 a.m. in the morning. Now, I'm not suggesting that that is something that Aurora could do, but you know what? Let's do what we can. Let's have another look at the bylaw before Ms. Van Leeuwen breaks out into laughter. Let's have another look at our bylaw.
Councillor, you're at 5.
Let's look at their bylaw and let's see what we can change to make it better for the residents.
Thank you. Councillor Humphreys?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and I'm not opposed at having a review of the bylaw, and Toronto's quite different than we are. It's incredible what's happening there. But we hear some of the noise concerns, and construction is one of the big ones for me. absolutely should be adhered to. So I don't mind taking a look at that. I think Ms. Van Leeuwen did mention that, to get into that area of detail, I think that Toronto does have the tools and the training and the decibel tools that they need to do and enforce, which we don't. And I believe that'll be quite costly. If I remember looking at that older report, the tools and the training can be quite expensive. But if it's worth it and we want to build it in our budget, that's something we need to consider. But my only thing is, one of the bigger complaints I get is our planned events and people not liking that. And I'm concerned with that because that is part of our town culture, and I don't see an issue with that. And I hope we're not going to be looking at, shutting down events or moving them because some people aren't happy. So there's public spaces that have been in tradition forever, and I don't want to see that affected. I don't know if I'm saying this correctly, but I don't mind, taking a look at this and having those concerns with, construction starting before 8 or whatever, if it's 7 or 8, ending at a decent hour so people can have peace and quiet. But public events, if they're held in its tradition, I don't want to see that touched. That's my opinion on that one. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Gardner, for clarifying what it is you wanted to have reviewed. I was a little bit confused as to what the direction of the motion was, because it's a very generalized ask for staff, doing a comprehensive overview. I still think it's a little overwhelming to do an comprehensive review at this point without a little bit more specifics to what you're trying to achieve. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Ms. Van Leeuwen, a question for you. Do our current bylaws line up with most municipalities as it stands?
Ms. Van Leeuwen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I would say they're fairly consistent with our surrounding municipalities. I have looked at the work that the City of Toronto is doing, and they are doing a very comprehensive review, and I think that there's approximately 50 amendments that they're proposing to their noise bylaw. So it's very, very extensive. There is a working group that has been established that has been working on this for at least 18 months, as Councillor Gardner mentioned. So it's very comprehensive, and I believe that they've also engaged an acoustical engineer in the process.
Councillor?
Thank you, through Mr. Mayor. Next question. Is there a typical timeline or process in place when a comprehensive review so large would take place? Like, is it something that is typical to do every 10 years or 15 years? Is there something specific?
Ms. Van Leeuwen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's always a good practice to review your bylaws and update them as times change. And we do have the noise bylaw on our radar for a review. So we will be watching the City of Toronto and the outcomes of that, and we can bring forward a report on the changes, significant changes that they have made. And like I said, it is on our radar to do a review of our noise bylaw.
Councillor?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. So in your opinion, with the motion that's been put forward and the details Councillor Gardner has discussed, you feel that that is something that would be a good idea for us to look at?
Ms. Van Leeuwen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I do believe, like I said, the noise bylaw, would be a review of the noise bylaw would be appropriate at this point in time. And we do have some concerns, and there are some gaps perhaps that we could address. Also, some delegated authority to, allow us to include an exemption process and an application process, and maybe attach some conditions to that exemption. And so there are a number of things that we could introduce into the bylaw to streamline process.
Councillor?
Thank you, through Mr. Mayor. And lastly, just with the wording that follows what staff follow with happening in Toronto, and it made it sound like it was quite a huge working group and hiring acoustics. Is that something that you feel that this motion would be directing you to do?
Ms. Van Leeuwen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, my takeaway from the motion is that we would keep an eye and monitor what the City of Toronto is doing, and any amendments that are brought forward and passed at council, that we would report back to this council on those changes.
Councillor?
Perfect, thank you.
Councillor Gallo, just before I go to you, I just want to remind everyone, my take is similar to Ms. Van Leeuwen's. We're not discussing whether we're going to review our bylaw. My understanding is that we're just going to get a report back of what City of Toronto did. So we're not necessarily talking about reviewing our bylaw. Councillor Gallo.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my questions also, Councillor, to see
Sorry.
whether or not, no, whether or not it's on our radar that we were going to be reviewing it as well, and if it was, that's great. And if this thing maybe can be tweaked a bit, I think we can be on the same page in terms of giving some direction, which it seems to me it's on the radar anyway to do a review of our bylaw. I think the wording of this is a little bit off, but I think it could be adjusted to that extent. I also wanted to know, and I'm not sure who to direct this to, Mr. Mayor. I guess the degree of complaints that we've received, to me, would generate kind of a red flag to say, yes, there's, we're getting a lot of complaints. There's an issue. We need to address it. Are we at that point that through either Access Aurora, through your department, Ms. Van Leeuwen, that we've received so many complaints that it's a topic that we need to address?
Ms. Van Leeuwen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we can certainly extract that information, and I wouldn't say it's the top three. Our top three are parking, fouling of roads, and clean yards, particularly in the summertime. Like I would say in the last 6 months, those have been our top three complaints. In terms of noise complaints, I'm not sure where they fall in terms of, yes, is it in the top six, or I'm not sure, but the top three this summer were fouling of roads, parking, and clean yards.
Councillor?
Okay, thank you. So, I mean, if the motion is tweaked a bit, I'm happy to support it if it's giving, I guess, some direction to staff to review the noise bylaw. I'm in support of that. And I also agree with Councillor Humphreys that, listen, if you live near the X, expect to have some noise, period. It's just the way it is.
Councillor Thompson?
Thank you. Similar to some of the other comments, if the motion had read that, staff begin a comprehensive review of Aurora's noise bylaw, I'd be in support of it. But it doesn't really say that. What it says is follow what's happening in Toronto and bring a report back on the up to 50 amendments that Toronto is doing. Some may be applicable to Aurora and some may not. But after staff table that report, then what? We're still back at this same spot where we need to decide whether or not we're going to review the noise bylaw, and by all means, it sounds like it is due. Secondly, part of the concern is that when Councillor Gartner was speaking, she named a number of specific things with regards to air conditioning, the pouring of concrete, so forth, none of which is really being addressed through the report that will come back. It'll only get addressed through the comprehensive review of our bylaw. And so, to me, the generalness of this motion doesn't really address the real issue, which is we need to take a look at our noise bylaw. And if it's on the radar soon, fine. If not, if council feels that it's a big enough issue, then let's accelerate the curve and bring it up to the forefront now. But I just don't see a need for doing this, because when staff conduct a comprehensive review, I'm sure that they look at various municipalities and look at some of those benchmarks and what everybody else is doing, whether it be a noise bylaw, a zoning bylaw, any of those. The comprehensive part is seeing what's going on in other municipalities around. So I'd much prefer if this was a specific motion asking staff to conduct that process than just a generalized one to say what's the City of Toronto doing.
I'll go to Councillor Kim for the first time before I come back to you, Councillor Garner. Councillor Kim?
Few years, our staff has been pretty diligent in comparing our bylaws, whether it be noise bylaw or sign bylaws, with those of other municipalities, and what the best practice is. If we were to compare and find out what other municipalities are doing, certainly Toronto would be top of the list, and one would think that maybe we should look at municipalities our size, that would be the common thinking. But certainly, why not? City of Toronto does have neighborhoods of varying sizes and densities and heights. And I do agree that it is a large undertaking. This is a large city, but if staff can find a way to just look at the amendments or some way to kind of bring it down to a bite size, it's kind of like saying give me a thesis on research on globalization as opposed to one country. It's a big report, and so I'd be happy finding out what the amendments are and the rationale behind it, and how many of those are relevant to a town like ours. So I'm appreciative of Councillor Gardner's motion, and I understand the spirit in which it was tabled, and I'd be happy to support it.
Thank you, Councillor Kim. I just have one question. Ms. Van Leeuwen, would a comprehensive review of the noise bylaw, would that be done internally, or would we have to hire someone externally?
Through to you, Mr. Mayor, we could certainly do that internally. If we were to introduce sort of the quantitative decibel readings, I think then we would have to hire a consultant to guide that process, because it's very, very specific and very technical. But if we were just to do a comprehensive review, we can certainly do that internally.
Thank you. Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And quite right. I didn't follow through with my thought. And the thought was that if Toronto has done all of this work and their new bylaw or the amendments to the bylaw are going into effect October 1st, so that we should just use that information, have a look at our own bylaw, and that staff begin a comprehensive review with suggestions that, well, I'm not sure, Ms. Van Leeuwen, but I think using what we think is appropriate from Toronto's bylaw. And also, we've been going back and forth for years about decibel levels. We may want to discuss that as a council, because that is, loud noises are a problem. But thank you. I really appreciate the suggestions. And this started because I heard a program on CBC Radio, and they were talking about, how Toronto is really trying to improve the life of their citizens. And I think that's what we're all about. The other reason why I think this is very important is because we are going to be having a lot of, I don't think infill development is quite the right word, but we are going to be having a lot of intensification in our older neighborhoods. And I know it's going to be very noisy. So I think we should be prepared. We're already starting to hear some things. We should be prepared to do everything we can to protect the residents that are in place through that construction process. And one of them, I don't think it's in our bylaw of the City of Toronto, is on Saturdays and Sundays they can't, I don't think they can work on Sundays or holidays, but on Saturdays they can't start till 9 o'clock in the morning. So that, the time construction starts has always been an issue. But I do think that on Saturdays people deserve to sleep in a little bit. So the motion would be, thanks to Councillor Thompson, so now therefore be it hereby resolved that staff follow what is happening in the City of Toronto and bring a report to council, using the information that they have learned from, I don't know, I can't do this. I'm bad at motions. Can somebody please help me? Well, the intent is the next clause could be 2, and...
How about, Councillor, how about the staff follow what is happening in the City of Toronto and begin the process of a comprehensive zoning noise bylaw review?
Thank you.
Is that...
That's...
I'm seeing a nod from Ms. Van Leeuwen. Is that what you'd like as an amendment?
With the intent that we're using the information that
Why?
they've worked so hard to research, and we
yeah.
don't, therefore we won't have to.
And I think by saying that staff follow what is happening in
Okay.
the city of Toronto in there is basically speaking to the fact that they'll incorporate
Thank
that
you.
and follow it and use it and guide them.
Thank you. And the idea was to save
Okay.
staff time and money.
So, Mr. Clerk, is that a friendly
Yes.
amendment, or do you need an
I
amendment?
say it's friendly.
She says it's friendly, but you'd prefer it as an amendment? As- Well, then let's do it procedurally correct, and
It's a substantive change, it's not friendly.
yes, let's make the change that it's an amendment that
Well-
wording be changed to now therefore it be here resolved that staff follow what is happening in the city
That was
of
just kind of
Toronto
the intent in
and
my
begin
head.
the process of a comprehensive noise bylaw review. So, Counselor, it'll take a second to come up on the screen, and if you're okay with it, I'll get someone to second it.
And begin process of a comprehensive review.
Of the town's noise bylaw.
Yeah.
And I agree. So, Counselor, would you like to add maybe the staff follow what is, CEO made a suggestion that the staff follow what is happening in the city of Toronto
With respect to.
and other municipalities?
Thank you.
Just throw that in there. So, I mean, because
Why
there's more
not?
than the city of Toronto. As much as I know Toronto, Mayor Tory likes to think that Toronto is the be-all, end-all, we all know that Toronto is 30 minutes south of the town of Aurora.
We all do know that, Mr. Mayor, but this, the city of Toronto has resources that we don't. Okay, guys.
Well, sure, they have the province giving them money all the time.
Oh, stop. Stop. I mean, the city of Toronto has put a lot of energy, staff time, community time, money into this, so.
All right, so let's see what's going to
But
come
add
up.
it.
And if you're okay with it, I'll get a seconder. Actually, if you look on your small screen, oh, it's there now. There you go. Are you okay with that, Counselor?
Okay. Very good.
You're good? Seconder? Counselor Gallo?
Could I just ask when we might see some results of this?
Ms. Van Leeuwen?
Or could amendments be put through as they come to your mind?
Ms. Van Leeuwen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if we're following the City of Toronto, I would imagine that it's going to be based on their timeline to some degree.
They're done.
Okay. The amendments have been enacted?
October 1st.
Okay. Okay, so we can certainly take a look at that. In terms of our review of the bylaw, I would prefer to do it in one review and come forward with one report with proposed amendments. And I would like to do some kind I'd like to create actually a working group with other municipalities because I think there is some benefit with our surrounding municipalities, and we've already started to do that on various different bylaws. So I'd like to engage with our other municipalities and form a working group perhaps, come forward with the results of that working group, as well as some kind of public consultation.
Are you thinking of,
Council.
through you, Mr. Mayor, are you thinking of next fall?
Ms. Van Leeuwen?
I'm thinking that perhaps by the summertime, as it would be helpful to have those amendments enacted prior to summertime, as that
Yeah.
is when our noise bylaw or our noise complaints would typically increase over the summer months.
Thank you, that
Counselor?
would be wonderful.
Thank you. Councillor Gilliland, speaking to the amendment.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. I do like the amendment, and I do like that it's specific in direction to staff and going forward with something. Comment is, I think I have an issue with the word follow. May sound tedious. I would rather use the word consider. I think that staff will come back with a report that they feel is relevant to our town and not necessarily following a town. And I think that was kind of one of the confusing paraphrases in the original motion, but I think Ms. Van Leeuwen understands kind of where we're going with this, but that's kind of my sticking point, but I'll support it.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson, to the amendment.
To the amendment, well, it's really actually just a, Councillor Gardner, I just don't want to put a time frame on this. Let's get it right and do what we need to do. It's a comprehensive review. I expect it's going to take some time. You know, let's not rush this in any way.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. I agree, and if we are going to look at doing the decibel part of it and you need to do external, I would assume that that would have to come through the budget process as well. Okay, call the vote on the amendment. Well, we're just following procedure. That carries. Back to the main motion as amended. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. That carries unanimously. All right, we have one more motion. Councillor Gartner, traffic calming on Center Street. Can I get,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
can I get a motion? Move as is.
Okay, but I have a couple of word amendments. So I
Well,
guess I have to move the motion as is first.
Move it as is, and then we'll
Thank you.
decide whether
Move
they're
as is.
friendly or amendments. So move as is, second. Councillor Thompson. Councillor
Thank you.
Gartner, floor is yours.
Thank you. I just wasn't specific enough in this motion. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 whereas is down. Whereas this is a problem specific to those who live on, and it should be the western part of Center Street. It doesn't affect the whole street. And then going down to the next whereas, second line, for the residents in this location, as opposed to on this street.
Mr. Clerk, do we need an amendment for the whereas clauses?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no amendments to the whereas clauses, just for the operative clauses.
Okay.
Okay.
So Councillor, those two, is there any other ones?
No, so it's specifically to those who live on the western part of Center Street, and then the following line, for the residents living in this location.
Okay. So what about the therefore clauses?
Oh, therefore.
Are they fine?
Yep, they're fine.
They're fine. Okay. So does staff have the whereas clauses? Can we make those adjustments?
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor. Anything else? Floor is yours.
Thank you. I was at this table when we did the traffic calming. It was over 3 years of residents' input and a consultant, and the residents were just very in the what is now the Heritage District, and just north of that, were very concerned for the safety and tired of people cutting through their neighborhoods. And not everybody was happy, but we did fulfill the purpose of that process, and the cars are not infiltrating the neighborhoods now, with the exception of one place, and that place is when you come from Yonge Street driving east Center Street is supposed to be a one-way for that the first short space of distance. And what is happening is cars are not supposed to be entering Center Street going east, and they are. And because they're doing what they shouldn't be doing, they are speeding, and it has been for many years actually caused a concern of some of the residents. And there's only perhaps 8 homes on this small stretch, but safety is important no matter where or the numbers. And it's just pretty simple. The consultant failed to figure out how to do a barrier that would fulfill this part of their design, which was to make this part of Center Street a one-way. So I'm asking on behalf of the residents that we figure out what the correct barrier is to follow the design of the consultant that was endorsed by the council of that time, and keep this a one-way on Center and prevent the cars from being able to get in and speed. And it's a functional issue. I think there must be a solution. The one that the consultant suggested and we put in place just isn't working.
Councillor Humphreys.
My only question for this is I'm in favor of the motion, absolutely. Just that the survey be circulated only for the residents living on Center Street. Does staff feel that this will affect I understand what you're getting at, Councillor Gardner, for sure, but maybe the other residents, that whatever we do will affect them positively, negatively? No? You don't believe so? Okay. Okay, I'll just leave it. It's good.
Anyone else? Councillor Gallo. All the names popped up now.
Could I get a better explanation of which part of Center Street you're referring to and which direction you're referring to?
Councillor Gardner?
You're traveling north on Yonge Street, and you might make a right-hand turn onto Center. I think that street is Spruce. Just before you have the first block, you have a street where you make a left-hand turn, and the block after that is the block that was supposed to be protected from you or I continuing to go east on Center Street. Can you?
Yeah.
You cannot pass Spruce.
You are correct, Councillor. There's a stop sign there, and it's considered a one-way, and you're not allowed to enter.
Yeah.
You're right.
So what are we suggesting to do?
Well, I'm not exactly sure because I'm not a traffic consultant. And this wasn't even done by a traffic consultant. This was done by a consultant who specializes in traffic calming. The intent was to keep the cars going east, not to allow that. And that's what the barrier is there now, but they are not. The cars are speeding along that part of. They're going around the barrier and speeding, and as one of the residents said to me, they're speeding because they know they're not supposed to be there. So I don't know what the functional change is.
Councillor Gallo?
So I'm a little confused. We're asking to do a survey and then implement the 50% rule and then figure out how to stop the cut through. We already have a street, Center Street is one way west, stops at Spruce. You cannot go east of Spruce currently. So I'm not sure what the survey is going to do. If I'm going to assume they all don't want people to. None of us do because it's against the law. They can't go east of Spruce on Center. So I'm sure they're all going to be in agreement with that. Well, maybe I'm not sure. Maybe some of the residents in the condo might want to be able to go east. So maybe there's some value in that. I don't know. But it looks like an enforcement thing to me as opposed to, I don't know what that last one, we're trying to figure out another way to stop them from going east on Center, from some, maybe some direction to staff to see what else we can do, put some police officers there. You know, if it's happening, and I don't know if, through you to Ms. Van Leeuwen, if it's on her radar that this is happening. I don't know if it's a bylaw thing more than a police thing, or if the town is aware that this is happening, and how best to resolve it. I don't know if this motion captures it. Maybe that's what I'm kind of.
Did you want a response from Ms. Van Leeuwen?
If she
Ms. Van
knows,
Leeuwen?
I don't know if it's a bylaw thing though.
I would say no, but I'll let her hit.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, this would be a policing matter. Yeah. But we can certainly reach out to YRP and, ask that increased patrol or things like that. We do have a good partnership with them, and they are very responsive.
Councillor Gallo?
And just through you to Councillor Gardner, is this as a result of residents approaching you and saying we need to address this?
Councillor Gardner?
Thank you. Residents sent an email to all of us, and some of us picked up on it. And I should have clarified the survey. When we have an area like this, we send a survey to the whole area because the whole area was traffic calmed. But because it doesn't apply to 98% of the area, people didn't send in the responses. So I was just asking that a survey be sent to the specific area that's affected.
Councillor Gallo?
Has the town made YRP aware of this, or have we done anything to address this issue? Does anyone know?
I can answer from my perspective. I've spoken to YRP in regards to this issue. I mean, but just as we all are aware, they can't be there all the time. On occasion, they might show up, but there's, with break-ins and other things, there's
Sure,
more things for them to be putting their patrol cars to.
Okay.
Councillor Kim?
Thank you. It seems like there's two issues that are being addressed. One, which everyone seems to have highlighted already, which is the eastbound traffic on Center heading at Spruce. And if that's already, if you're going over the obstacle and that's already illegal, it seems like a simple matter of just erecting another barrier of some kind to ensure that our traffic laws are being abided by. And the other one is speeding. And through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm not sure who this would be addressed to, Ms. Van Leeuwen, or in terms of the poll, why was there a poll as opposed to the more common direction, which is to have a petition?
Mr. Waters?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. Councillor Kim, could you repeat the question, please?
Yeah.
Councillor Kim?
So with respect to residents complaining about speeding, there's normally the first requirement is to have X amount of residents sign a petition on that street or living in that area. So in February of this year, we did a poll. Can you just, I'm just trying to recollect as to why we did the poll as opposed to asking the resident to spearhead a petition.
Mr. Waters?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. My understanding is that council directed staff in December of 2018 to undertake a survey for this area of Center Street to look at basically 3 options regarding traffic calming. The response rate that was received by the town was less than 50%. In fact, it was approximately 18%. Notices were mailed out to approximately 226 residents within a study area that expanded north of Center Street to Catherine, included both sides of Spruce Street, both sides of Center Street, east and west of Walton, all the way to the Gold Railway line.
Councillor Kim?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for refreshing the memory. So it was a council director then to do the polling. I think in terms of if we do another, regarding clause 1, another survey just for Center Street, I've always been of the view that you can't just isolate one part of town or one street, because we're all interconnected. We all live together, and the viability of our neighborhood, our enjoyment of our neighborhood is interconnected with the other streets. So it's hard to. I'm kind of challenged to say let's have another survey just for that one street. In terms of clause 3, I guess that does make sense in terms of if we are trying to put something together so that vehicle drivers are obeying our laws, then let's put a bigger barrier or do something to prevent that cut through. So I think by and large, I think there just needs to be some tightening or some revision of some language, but I think in large part I am on side with Councillor Gardner in terms of the cut through, but in terms of the speed mitigation or the cushion, speed cushions, and I'd rather have if we go the pole route, I'd rather have that again the broader neighborhood as opposed to just the isolated street.
Thank you, Councillor Kim. Councillor Gilliland?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. While I understand the issues at Center Street, and I have spoken to the residents, and I understand that they do go the wrong way, and it does pose a bit of a safety issue. My only concern with the way the motion's being presented is if we're just focusing just on the people in this particular area, and we decide that within these results that a change needs to be made, all of a sudden this change needs to be made is going to affect all of Center Street. So we're essentially just creating a new problem. Maybe the solution that we had many years ago, maybe we're discovering that wasn't great, but I still think the whole street of Center Street will be affected if there is change made, which is why I have trouble isolating it to those homes. I'm not sure how many homes are affected. Councillor Gardner, do you remember?
Councillor said 8.
8?
8. Is that
8.
correct, Councillor?
So if 8 homes were voting, oh yes, we need to do something, and then we all decide to make a change based on those 8 homes, then I feel whatever those changes would be would affect all of Center. So I don't feel we can isolate it specific to them. I'm not so sure what the solution is here today, but I'm not 100% by the way that's being addressed today, the way it's being presented.
Councillor Thompson?
Thank you. From my understanding, this notice is before us because of the concerns of people going the wrong way on the street. And so, similar to Councillor Gallo's assessment, I'm having trouble with the first 2 clauses because I really don't know the value of doing the survey and imposing the 50% rule. If really we're just trying to discuss and find a solution for people going the wrong way. If the survey is just going to say, is people going the wrong way a problem on your street, we know the answer. And so I don't know where we're going with that survey or what the intent of is to find out. With regards to the 3rd clause, certainly the best measure is to make it illegal. It is illegal. I'm happy for staff to try and think of other ways, and I don't have any ideas myself, but I agree. This is an enforcement issue, and I don't know if this motion before us really solves that issue. Perhaps there are other things with YRP or something like that, and staff want to report back to it from an enforcement perspective, what else we can do. But I just think that it's muddy in the water, this motion.
Councillor Gardner, second time.
Has Councillor Humphreys had?
She spoke already once.
The reason that this thing is in about the survey is because when council made that motion, it was a very, very different circumstance because it was a traffic calming area. So the survey went out to the entire traffic calming area and the warrants weren't met, or the feedback requirements weren't met. So I was thinking, I was just going from that motion that council made that we needed to make a more specific motion about surveying just the people on Center Street that were affected. I do think it muddies the water. I think the bottom line is that the traffic calming initiative didn't work because the barrier that the consultant designed doesn't work. And YRP, I know the residents have tried, YRP cannot help us with this. So I'm just trying to find a way to see if we can figure out how to put a barrier in place that will accomplish what was supposed to be in the first place. So all of this can kind of just go out the door because that's the crux of it. Let's see. Be it resolved that measures be undertaken to stop the infiltration of cut-through, which was the whole intent of the traffic calming. And I don't know what whereases would be required, but I'll work on it.
Is that all, Councillor, right now?
I need to try and figure out the whereases, so
So do you want me to continue?
yes, please.
Thank you. I just haven't spoken yet, so I just kind of want, I mean, I'm a bit of the same mind, and I'm struggling looking at this. I agree, I don't know what the survey is, because I think we all know what the answer is. We know that there's a problem there. But even the third clause, to ask staff to, for measures to be undertaken to stop the infiltration of the cut-through, I mean, realistically, there's three options. One is you enforce it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Two is you eliminate the one-way, so that way now it's not a problem anymore. Or you put up a physical barrier that doesn't allow traffic to infiltrate at all. And to me, those are the three options. So I mean, I really don't know what we're directing staff to come back to us with. I think that, Councillor Gardner, if you had something specific that you think that would help resolve this out of those three issues, you can make that suggestion, I think, and then council can decide whether that's the road that they want to go down or not.
Okay.
That would be my suggestion, but Councillor Humphreys?
Mr. Mayor, I was in that direction. I don't think staff even had a chance to address this at all. From what I understand, they haven't been engaged with the second complaint we did receive a note from a resident. So maybe we do put it forward to them that, just find a solution, maybe one of those three, instead of going through the whole process of a survey. I think it's the right way to go.
Okay, Council, I mean, I'll give a suggestion here.
Yep.
And Councillor Gardner, if you don't agree, that's fine, but that staff report back on mitigation strategies for the traffic issues on Center Street.
Whereas and the fourth whereas could be the whereases of the motion. Or just through you to Mr. Clerk, just cut out the first two therefores, and
And just have this.
is that fine?
Do we need an amendment, Mr. Clerk?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, absolutely. If the end point it's getting to there is a little murky, but if you'd accept an amendment that the operative clauses be changed to what you just suggested, I think, we could put that on the floor as an amendment.
So Councillor, would you like to make an amendment that would basically remove all three clauses, and the new clause would be that staff report back on mitigation strategies for the traffic issues on Center Street?
That would be good, but I think we need, just as an explanation, the first and the fourth whereas.
Well, I think you can just leave the whereases. I don't think anyone has a problem with the whereases.
Okay.
It's the clause that's directing staff to
Okay.
actually complete something and come back to us.
Perfect.
Okay, so Councillor Gardner is moving that? Yes. Thank you. Someone want to second that? Councillor Gallo? So we'll just give it a second for it to get up on the screen, everyone. So everyone good with that? I'll call the vote. I did get a seconder. Councillor Gallo. Oh, Councillor Gilliland, you want to speak?
Yes. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Just because I'm new at this, and I'm just really trying to understand what the process is, and when the public is given a survey, and I think someone was mentioning petitions, so the town has gone another way and have done this survey based on the street, and it's come back with no response, and I thought there was a process in place to when we would be directing staff to go do extra work on a street, and I'm just trying to understand if there's any process that I'm missing or don't understand. Mr. Clerk? Somebody?
Mr. Clerk?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, I'm not ready to speak on the process that's been taken up to this place with Center Street. I'd have to review the documentation. I don't think you're missing anything in terms of, you know, it sounds like we've tried something that didn't necessarily work, so now it's back to the drawing board, is my take on it so far, so I wouldn't say you're missing anything, but I would need to really review what's happened before to speak intelligently on it.
Councillor Gilliland?
Okay, I guess knowing about this problem quite a few months ago, and you know, the recommendation to me was that a survey or petition be done, and if I could simply have put a motion forward to say exactly here, I would have definitely have done it. I think I'm in support of this motion. I just wish that I was guided in a direction at this point months ago. That's a comment.
Councillor, I think anyone's free to bring forward any motion at any time. I mean, as I said, I look at this as a very simple exercise. I honestly, truly believe there's only 3 options that are going to come back from staff, and it's going to be very quick, and we're going to have to just make a quick decision on how we're going to move forward. But yeah, I mean, I'll call the vote. That carries unanimously. Back to the main motion as amended. If there's no other comments, I'll call the vote. Oh, it did it? It flipped by? That passed unanimously as well. All right. We have no regional report. New business. I will start on my left. Councillor Gallo. Councillor Thompson. Councillor Gartner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've had some, I guess, complaints from residents about the lack of advertising that we did for the Intercultural Festival. I don't follow Twitter.
I'll just stop you there. The Intercultural Festival was a third-party event, so we weren't responsible for advertising.
So we wouldn't put it on our, but actually there is information on the town website that describes it, and this is the second complaint that says it's a family-friendly event. But in actual fact, some people went on the day and with kids, and they weren't allowed to come in because it was 19 plus. So I don't know how that happened. And when we put forward the money, it was our understanding that it was a family-friendly event. Anyway, that's something that shouldn't happen when we're giving out money. The third thing is about the cannabis store on Yonge Street, and you had hoped as the mayor that we would be able to get the comments from our residents and that we would look at them and then we would make a comment. But it turns out that residents' comments and our comments have to be put into the province at the same time. So I don't know why we were out of the information loop, but it's unfortunate because we won't be able as a council to look at the comments our residents are making. And I'm wondering if that's really the proper system for the province to follow. Wouldn't
It's their process.
It's their process. Well, we didn't know how it worked. And council and you are on record for saying that we were going to look at the residents' comments and make comments after that. So it's unfortunate.
Councillor Kemp. Councillor Humphreys. Councillor Gilliland. Actually, I have one. Mr. Waters. I continuously have problems with Highland Gate developments and in regards to what's going on over there with whether it's construction noise, whether it's property standards, high grass, the park is still nowhere to be seen. What's going on?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I've had no complaints for at least 3-4 weeks from residents.
That's because they're all calling my office.
Oh. My experience to date with Highland Gate is that they've been very quick to react. They marshal their team very quickly to deal with resident comments. Unless I'm advised of any issues regarding, weeds or unsodded areas, etc., I'm in really no position to act. And they seem to be very quick, like I said, in responding to resident complaints. They respond very quickly and send a team out.
And while I appreciate that they do act quickly, and I've called them many times, I feel like I'm starting to have almost a daily dialogue with them. But it seems that when I call and the complaint is raised, it's taken care of. But then a couple weeks later, we're back to the same. And so that's the issue that I'm having. And I think that I have had some discussions with the CAO about possibly looking at doing some things moving forward of how we can do it. So we're going to continue looking at some different things, and maybe we can get together offline and we can have some discussions in how we can move forward and what I'm thinking, because we need to straighten this out. We can't have a construction zone for 10 years within one of our, mature neighborhoods. It's unacceptable, and I think everyone at this table would feel the same way in saying that it's unacceptable and that we need to do something about it. So we'll have that conversation offline. So
thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I suggest we get together and decide how to move forward in the best way with Highland Gate.
Thank you. And councillors, if any of you have anyone that's reaching out to you in specific to Highland Gate, please let each and every one of us know, so that way we can have all those issues in front of us, so we can deal with them. Public service announcements. Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you. We are so grateful to our partners at Desjardins for offering free recreational activities for Aurorans. Be sure to check out the fall schedule of free programming by visiting aurora.ca/DesjardinsDays. Are you a youth looking for community service hours? Well, join us at the Youth Volunteer Fair on Thursday, September 19th at the Aurora Family Leisure Complex from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. For more information, visit aurora.ca/youth-events.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you. Don't miss the Colors of Fall concert on Thursday, October the 10th from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at Aurora Town Park. Enjoy a tribute to Gordon Lightfoot, a corn roast, pumpkin carving, and more. For details, visit aurora.ca fall concert.
And I heard you're cooking the corn.
It's already, it's done.
All right.
Again?
Councillor Kim.
It's my birthday.
Hey!
No, I'm just kidding.
He's kidding.
Try out Club Aurora for free until September 13. This is your chance to try out a new fitness program and see what services Club Aurora offers. For more information, visit aurora.ca/fitness.
Thank you, Councillor Kim. Councillor Gartner.
Thank you. The town of Aurora intends to reconstruct the storm sewers on Poplar Crescent and Henderson Drive in 2020, subject to budget approval by council. Interested businesses and residents, homeowners are invited to attend a public meeting to view the engineering design plans for this project and discuss any questions or issues. It's going to be on Thursday, September 19th from 5 to 7:30 here at the town hall. And you can contact the town for more information, 905-727-3123, extension 4375. Mr. Mayor, could I just ask you if, or through you to Mr. Waters, did the notice go out to all of the people in the vicinity of this? This isn't the only communication.
Mr. Waters?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there have been a number of notices sent out on projects such as this. I can't confirm whether it's been sent out, but I assume it's been sent out. I can get back to you if you wish.
He'll send you an email and let you know.
Thank you. Can you come back to me with a new business issue, or do I have to wait for 2 weeks? Okay, I'll wait.
1 week. 1 week, not 2 weeks.
We don't. Oh, 1 week.
New businesses
Okay.
every week.
Okay, I'll wait.
All right. Councillor Thompson.
Registration is now open for the 2019 Fall Recreation and Aquatics programs. Pick up a copy of the Community Services Program Guide at our recreation facilities, town hall, library, or cultural center. You can also view the program guide online at aurora.ca/recguide. You can also register today for Club Aurora's Wellness Seminar on Secrets to a Better Sleep on Tuesday, September 24th from 11:30 to 12:30 at the Family Leisure Complex. For more details, visit aurora.ca/fitness.
Thank you, Councillor Gallo.
Thank you. I'm going to read it, but it raises some questions. The SARC pool will be closed until September 15th. Review the AFLC pool schedule for available swim times during this pool closure. For more information, visit aurora.ca/aquatics.
Or ask Ms. McDougall.
Yeah. So the SARC is closed, so go to the AFLC, but do we know why the SARC is closed, maybe?
Ms. McDougall?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, actually, it is scheduled closure. The pool liner is being repaired and maintained. It's part of a standard, or we had some deficiencies in one of the pieces, and we've been working with the contractor to improve that. So it's a scheduled closure. It's been washed. It's going to be very nice when it opens back up.
Councillor Gallo? Thank you. Actually, I have a couple. They weren't on the list. So Thursday, September 12th is the home opener for the Aurora Tigers. So come out 7 p.m. to hit the ACC, and if you bring your hoedown ticket, you get in for $5. So it's going to be Thursday, September 12th at 7 p.m. So it's a great way to get out there and cheer on the Tigers, and hopefully they start the season off right, because we're expecting big things from them this year. Also, obviously, it is hoedown weekend. So, it's a 31st hoedown. It's an incredible event. It's the biggest party under a tent in York Region. They've raised $13 million over 31 years. So it's incredible to, support for our communities, for the charities, and this evening, if you went out, all the volunteers were under the tent gathering to, get their assignments and what they're going to be doing. And it's an incredible sight to see almost 800 residents of York Region gathering under the tent. And it's just incredible. And it just speaks the volumes of our community, not just Aurora, but also York Region as a whole, of how many people are willing to come out and help each other. And what it takes to create this event. And so Friday is headliner is Alan Doyle. Saturday it is James Barker Band. And then also Friday during the day from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. is the student hoedown for kids with physical disabilities. It's an incredible an event. It started, I think, about 4 or 5 years ago. Councillor Humphreys? 5? And it was an incredible addition to the Hoedown. And, you know, if you haven't gone out to that one, I recommend that you get out there, you know, go around, walk, and you see all the smiles and on all the faces and all the kids enjoying an incredible day of Hoedown events. And I actually hope to see each and every one of you there, because I know during election season, everyone running for elected office is there. So it would be great to see everyone there when there's not an election. Councillor Humphreys.
Just a little bit of information. I've been going to that since 1996. I've not missed one Hoedown. And that was before I even lived in Aurora. It's an amazing event. And I'm helping Friday. I can't wait for the kids' event. It's amazing. It's going to be fun. Just thought I'd let you know that, 1996. I loved Aurora. I didn't even know what Aurora was.
Thank you, Councillor Humphreys. So we have another exciting weekend. Oh, and also we did have, I think, an incredible first pre-Hoedown party last weekend. Even though it rained a little bit, and it kind of dampened a little bit of the crowd, kind of scattered. But the restaurants were full. Stores that participated were full. The BIA was very excited about the event. They think it's something that they would like to continue, and I think it's something that we will possibly be continuing and visiting as we move forward in the coming years. So once again, it was a great way for people to get out and experience our downtown core and help with part of that revitalization. So no more public service announcement. Bylaws. Just confirming. Motion. Someone like to move the confirming bylaw? Councillor Humphreys, seconded by Councillor Kim. Call the vote. That carries. Motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Humphreys, seconded by Councillor Thompson. All those in favor, hands up. Opposed? That carries. We are adjourned. Thank you, Council.